Do you feel that? It's a soft tremor beneath your feet, almost like the earth itself is breathing. A slow, deliberate rhythm of life and death. She's calling to you, not with words, but with a presence that vibrates through the soil, through the very air you breathe. This is the call of Coatlicue, the Earth Mother. A name forgotten by time, yet a presence that is always watching, always waiting. Her name might have been erased from the sacred texts, but you can feel her still a distant echo, a haunting murmur in the wind. They said she once ruled over the realms of both life and death, the great cycle that binds everything to the earth. You might think of her as a creator, but she was also the destroyer, as a mother who gave life, but whose embrace was also a dark, consuming force. Back when the Aztecs honored their gods in ways we can barely imagine, Coatlicue was at the very center. She wasn't a goddess of gentle beauty or simple fertility. No, she was the Earth Mother in her rawest form, fierce, powerful, and eternal. Legends speak of her being pregnant with the stars, her body draped in writhing serpents and adorned with the symbols of the earth, a goddess both divine and terrifying. Even the other gods were said to tremble before her, because Coatlicue's power was absolute. Her body was the earth, but her spirit was connected to the cosmos. She was the earth that could give, and the earth that could take away without a hint of mercy. But it wasn't just the Aztecs who worshipped her. The Olmecs, the Toltecs, and even civilizations before them whispered her name. They called on her to bring the harvests and the rains, to ensure the sacred cycles of life continued. But the earth is ancient, older than any of them, older than you or I, and in that forgotten time, she ruled over more than just the fertile soil. She held dominion over the realms beyond the places where the sun never shines, or the underworld brushes against the stars. Her name is written in stone, carved into the ancient pyramids that now lie in ruins, but most will never find her there. The murals have faded, the offerings are long gone. What was once a city teeming with life, with prayers rising like smoke to the heavens, is now just a silent ghost town. And you, like so many who came before, stand on the edge of discovering something long lost, something that was meant to stay forbidden. There is power in knowing her name, Coatlicue. Some say that if you whisper it correctly, the earth itself will listen. But that knowledge is gone. Her true name, spoken only in the deepest caves, in the most sacred halls of forgotten temples, was sealed away by those who feared her. They believed that the earth, once disturbed, might never return to its calm. But listen closely now. The call is faint, but it's there. The earth is restless. Coatlicue is stirring in her forgotten grave, and she isn't calling for your reverence. She's calling for your fear, because it wasn't love that bound her to this world, but something darker, something more ancient than any of the gods you know. As we descend deeper into the myth, into the story of Coatlicue, the Earth Mother, they feared we will uncover the truth that was hidden. Buried beneath centuries of conflict, beneath layers of sacred rites and erased histories. This isn't just the story of a goddess. It's the story of a force too powerful to be understood, too consuming to be worshipped, and far too terrifying to remain forgotten. As we begin this journey into the dark, forgotten past, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Picture yourself standing in the shadow of a crumbled Aztec temple. The grandeur is gone, but if you listen closely, you can almost hear the stones whisper. They carry the echoes of ancient rituals, of a time when this land thrummed with the pulse of an empire. And here you can feel the weight of something unspeakable, something written in blood. Now, these temples weren't just stone and mortar. They were conduits to the gods, built to appease their cosmic thirst. And for one goddess in particular, the Earth Mother Coatlicue, a simple offering would never suffice. Her connection to the earth was so profound, she demanded a payment that would bind her followers to her in a dark, unholy covenant. She required the blood of the living, but these were not just any sacrifices. Victims, often warriors or those marked by fate, were chosen for their potential to carry the earth's curse. Priests would draw ancient symbols upon their bodies, runes known only to those who dared commune with the deepest parts of the world. Then, the ritual would begin. Imagine the slow ascent up the Great Pyramid steps, each one heavy with impending doom. At the summit, under the watchful eyes of carved deities, the victim was laid upon a stone altar. The high priests would chant in a forgotten tongue, their words vibrating like the earth itself, stirring from a long slumber. A ceremonial blade, obsidian sharp, would be raised high. The blood that flowed was more than an act of violence. It was a sacred, deliberate release of life force. It was said to nourish the earth, yes, but it also carried the prayers of the people directly to the heart of Coatlicue. What the sacred texts never revealed was that this act was more than an offering. It was a binding, a pact. The soul of the sacrificed was claimed by the Earth Mother, and with it, the knowledge of the Earth's true, terrifying power. But this knowledge was a double-edged sword, a path to madness. Coatlicue didn't just take life, she claimed souls, slowly eroding the sanity of those who sought her favor. The priests, her most devout followers, were unknowingly performing a ritual far darker than they could comprehend. The sacrificial blood wasn't just for sustenance. It was a key that unlocked a gateway between our world and something much older, much darker realm that even the gods themselves feared. This sacred ritual was a curse in disguise. While it seemed to maintain the cycles of nature, it also sowed seeds of corruption. The more blood that was spilled in her name, the more Coatlicue's unsettling influence seeped into the very soil. The earth grew restless, haunted by the memories of the dead it now held. The people, in turn, grew more desperate, their rituals becoming darker, their prayers more frantic. The line between life and death began to blur. Eventually, reverence turned to fear. What was once a sacred duty became a horrifying obligation. The priests, who had orchestrated these rituals for centuries, began to question everything. Had they been duped? Were they merely pawns in a cosmic game, played by a goddess whose true nature was beyond mortal comprehension? Had their devotion only served to deepen the curse, binding them ever tighter to her malevolent will? The truth, like the blood spilled on those ancient altars, was lost to time, buried beneath layers of stone and forgotten history. The sacrifices are now just a whisper on the wind, a distant, chilling memory carried by the earth itself. But the call of Coatlicue remains, hidden beneath the weight of civilizations. Perhaps the earth remembers what humanity has forgotten. And if you listen closely in the silence of these ruins, you might just hear the echo of that first sacrifice. The murmur of blood calling to blood. A pact sealed in darkness, where the earth still trembles with the weight of its own terrible truth. Thank you for joining me on this. We all know the story of Coatlicue, the mighty sun god of the Aztecs, a miraculous birth, a mother in peril, and a son born fully armed to defend her honor. It's a tale of divine intervention, of good triumphing over evil. But what if I told you that's not the whole story? What if the popular myth is just a gleaming surface, hiding a far darker, more primal truth about the birth of this powerful deity? The story we're often told is simple. Coatlicue, the Earth Mother, is sweeping a temple when a ball of feathers falls from the sky. She tucks it into her waistband and miraculously becomes pregnant. Her other children, the stars and the moon, are outraged by this mysterious pregnancy and plot to kill her. But just as they attack, Coatlicue springs from her womb, a fully grown warrior, armed with a fire serpent, and slaughters his treacherous siblings, saving his mother and establishing himself as the new sun. It's a clean, heroic narrative. But the ancient world was rarely so neat. Let's journey into the shadows of this myth, to a version that speaks not of divine blessings, but of cosmic terror. In this telling, Coatlicue, whose name means serpent skirt, is not just a passive mother. She is the earth ancient, chaotic, and unimaginably powerful. Her conception isn't a gentle miracle, it's a violent collision. Imagine the raw, untamed energy that sleeps at the planet's core, a force older than the gods themselves. This is what impregnates her, not a gift from the heavens, but a tremor from the depths, an eruption of the Earth's own chaotic soul. This child, stirring in her womb, wasn't a blessing. It was a premonition. Coatlicue knew this wasn't the birth of another celestial god of light. This was something else entirely, something wild, uncontrollable, and dangerous. Coatlicue birth wasn't a moment of salvation. It was a rupture in the fabric of reality. He didn't just emerge. He exploded into existence, a living embodiment of the Earth's primal rage. In his first act, the slaughter of his siblings. In the popular myth, this is justice. But in this darker version, it's a terrifying declaration of power. He wasn't just protecting his mother. He was announcing the arrival of a new, chaotic order. He was a force of nature that the other gods, born of light and grace, couldn't comprehend and desperately feared. His birth wasn't a victory for the divine. It was the moment the divine was shattered. So, who was Huitzilopochtli really? Not just a sun god, not just a warrior. He was the child of the earth's restless hunger, a walking paradox of creation and destruction. His power didn't come from a heavenly blessing, but from the planet's chaotic, volcanic heart. He is a stark reminder that even the brightest sun casts a shadow, that the gods themselves are forged in the same cosmic fires that shape our world fires, that can create and annihilate in the very same breath. This hidden story reveals a profound and unsettling truth about the Aztec worldview. It shows that their gods weren't separate from the natural world, but were born from its most violent and unpredictable forces. Huitzilopochtli, the celebrated hero, is also a symbol of this fundamental chaos. He teaches us that creation is never peaceful. It is born from turmoil, and no power, not even the divine, can ever truly escape the ancient, eternal, and often terrifying power of the earth itself. Thanks for joining me on this dive into the shadows of myth. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories that challenge what you think you know. See you next time. Have you ever wondered what secrets lie buried in the folds of time? Imagine a moment long lost when the earth itself trembled. Great sun serpent, Quetzalcoatl, once a symbol of life and rebirth, coiled around the world, its body stretching across the heavens. It was said this serpent, the very embodiment of the sun, held the secrets of the cosmos. But it also held a darker truth, one that even the gods feared. Quetzalcoatl, the famous feathered serpent, was more than just a god of wisdom and light. He was the counterpart to Coatlicue, the Earth Mother. She was the fertile soil that gives life, but also demands sacrifice. He was the sun that sustains life, but can also burn and consume. They were two halves of the same cosmic equation, locked in an eternal dance of creation and destruction. But there was something about Quetzalcoatl that was often overlooked, a side more closely tied to the underworld than many dared to admit. Legend says Quetzalcoatl would descend into the depths of the earth, traversing the realms of the dead. His journey was one of both light and shadow. Though his feathers were gold and his body adorned with cosmic symbols, he was a creature born of both worlds, a bridge between life and death. And within his coils, the world's most sacred and dangerous truths lay hidden, truths that could elevate a soul or damn it forever. But there was a moment, now forgotten, when the serpent's light began to flicker. Some say this marked the beginning of the end for the gods themselves. It was as if Quetzalcoatl, that radiant deity, was losing his hold over the sun, over the very forces that bound the heavens and the earth. With his light faltering, the stability of the world began to crumble. A dark, whispered legend claims that, in his quest for ultimate understanding, Quetzalcoatl ventured too far into the unknown, to a place where the earth's heartbeat and the heavens' pulse collide. There, in the deepest abyss, he came face to face with a truth that shook him to his core: the sun. The light he embodied was not eternal. It was a fleeting flame destined to fade, leaving only darkness in its wake. This knowledge was forbidden, a truth so dangerous it could unravel the fabric of reality. The serpent's true nature wasn't one of eternal light, but of a Sokola cycle that began in darkness and would one day return to it. This was the serpent's secret, a creature bridging both light and dark, birth and decay, creation and annihilation. What Quetzalcoatl discovered is now lost to time, perhaps intentionally erased by the gods who feared it. Some say he willingly withdrew into the underworld to contemplate this terrible truth. Others believe the serpent, now too powerful to control, dragged him into its coils, never to let him go. The feathered serpent, once a beacon of hope, now carries the shadow of this forbidden knowledge. His descent was a warning, The gods themselves, in their quest for power, had brushed too close to the void. So Quetzalcoatl, the god of light, became a god of shadows. His journey into the depths marked the start of the gods' decline, a slow unraveling that would echo through the ages. The sun may rise and set, but its light will one day fade, as all things must. And the serpent, coiled in the darkness, waits for its next moment to rise. The questions remain. Was the serpent a symbol of hope or of doom? And what was the truth so terrible it was locked away in the heart of the earth? The answers are buried, but the serpent still watches, waiting for its light to rise again. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the shadows of myth. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the unknown. See you next time. The sun bleeds across the horizon, casting long, skeletal shadows over the ruined streets of Tenochtitlan. Once, this was a city of impossible grandeur, where stone met sky in a perfect union of human will and divine design. Now, you see only what remains, the bones of pyramids and temples, half swallowed by centuries of dust and forgetting. Yet even in this profound silence, there's a presence, a weight, a lingering feeling that the past isn't just gone, it's waiting. You're standing before one of the many crumbled temples, but this one is different. Hidden from view, buried beneath layers of rewritten history, this is the temple that once belonged to Coatlicue, the Earth Mother. To a casual glance, it's just a mound of stone, a forgotten relic. But something else is here, something that calls to you from within the stones themselves. This is a place with secrets to tell. Long before the city fell, the high priests of this very temple walked these grounds. They weren't priests of some ordinary god. Coatlicue's power was both revered and deeply feared. The people came for blessings of fertility, for rain, for protection in battle. But behind the sacred rituals and the clouds of incense, something darker was stirring, something the priests could never admit. Because this temple wasn't just a place of worship, it was a vault of knowledge, holding secrets meant to be locked away from mortal eyes forever. The stonework around you, though cracked and weathered, still holds the marks of those ancient rites. Look closer. Beneath the grime and the age, you can just make out the carvings, serpents and stars, symbols of blood and death. The icons adorning this temple were not for everyone. They were written in a language older than the gods, passed down from a forgotten time. It was said that anyone who could read these stone inscriptions would unlock the deepest mysteries of the earth, the forbidden knowledge that Coatlicue herself guarded. But that knowledge came at a terrible price. Some say the priests discovered something deep beneath the earth, an ancient hidden power that Coatlicue had kept buried for eons. Whatever they found was not meant to be unearthed. It was a power so dark, so potent, that the very act of uncovering it began to unravel the fabric of their world. The temple, once a sacred site of earth worship, began to change. It became corrupted. The priests, once the guardians of the goddess, started hearing whispers in the night. Some claimed it was the voice of the gods, speaking through the earth, but others believed it was the first touch of a madness that would soon consume the entire city. It is said that the high priests, upon learning the secrets buried beneath their feet, grew more and more erratic. They performed rituals, not of devotion, but of pure desperation, trying to control the power they had unleashed. The blood once offered to Coatlicue became a tool of frantic means to tap into ancient forces they could not comprehend. The holy sacrifices took on a violent, desperate energy, as if to appease the earth itself before it tore the city apart. And yet, despite the mounting chaos, the power in the temple was never truly understood. Some believe it was the knowledge of the gods themselves, a divine secret so terrifying it had been hidden from mortal hands. Others say it was something far older, not of the gods at all, but of the earth itself, a raw force tied to the very bones of the world. Whatever it was, it could not be controlled. It consumed the priests, drove them to madness, and twisted the world around them. In time, the temple was sealed, its secrets buried under the weight of history. The Aztecs themselves erased it from the public eye, hiding the true, terrifying nature of Coatlicue's influence. The temple became a symbol of the destruction and corruption that had been unleashed. But even though it's buried, the temple has not forgotten. The whispers still linger in these ruins, calling to those who dare to seek them out. What did the priests uncover? What price did they pay for knowledge too dark to understand? The answers lie buried, waiting. And as you stand here in the shadow of this forgotten place, you can feel the weight of their discovery pressing down on you. The earth beneath your feet is alive with the knowledge of those who came before. Their sins, their betrayals, are still echoing through the stone and soil. If you listen closely enough, you might just hear the whisper. Start with a view of a vast, star-filled night sky. Slowly, a single, bright star begins to fade until it vanishes completely. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt a sense of wonder, but also a sense of absence, as if something is missing? Tonight, we're venturing into the heart of a cosmic mystery, a story woven into the history of the Aztec Empire, the disappearance of the Tonatiuh star. This wasn't just any star. For the Aztecs, it was a celestial guide, sacred fire burning in the heavens, second only to the sun god it was named after. It was a beacon of power and hope, its position marking the start of sacred rituals and illuminating the path of priests and prophets. The Tonatiuh star was their connection to the divine, a shimmering thread in the grand cosmic tapestry. Then, one night, it was gone. Imagine the fear that gripped an entire civilization. The star that guided their lives, their rituals, their understanding of the universe simply vanished. It didn't fade over time. It wasn't a comet or a fleeting celestial event. One moment it was there, a brilliant point of light, and the next, nothing, just an empty patch of darkness. The heavens themselves seemed to have erased it. The Aztec scholars, the wise men who dedicated their lives to reading the stars, were baffled. Was this the wrath of the gods? A punishment for some unknown transgression? The people looked to the sky for answers, but found only a terrifying silence. The absence of the Tonatiuh star was an omen, but of what, no one could say for sure. But what if the truth was something far more unsettling than divine anger? Whispers and ancient legends suggest the Tonatiuh star was never a star at all. Some believed it was a messenger, a being of pure light sent to guide humanity. Its task complete, did it simply return to its origin, or was it taken? Think about it. Its disappearance didn't just leave a hole in the sky. It left a void in their understanding of reality. It was as if a key to the universe had been lost. Without it, the sacred rituals felt hollow. The divine connection was severed. The path to understanding the gods, the sun, and the cosmos was suddenly shrouded in darkness. This leads to an even more chilling theory. What if the disappearance wasn't a punishment from the gods, but a sign of their decline? A cosmic event that signaled the beginning of their end. Perhaps the star's absence created a ripple in the fabric of the universe, a vacuum that something else, something far darker, could rush in to fill. Maybe the gods themselves feared this, knowing the star's disappearance signaled the collapse of the very order they fought to maintain. The mystery echoes through the centuries. Was the Tonatiuh star stolen by forces seeking to conceal a powerful truth? Or did it vanish because its light was no longer needed in a world spiraling towards chaos? We are left with a sky that will never be the same, a cosmic puzzle with a missing piece. The loss of the Tonatiuh star isn't just an ancient astronomical riddle. It's a profound question about our place in the universe. It marks the beginning of an age of uncertainty, where the old gods grow silent and their power wanes. The star is gone, and its absence leaves us wondering, will the heavens ever be whole again? Or was its disappearance the final silence before the collapse of everything? What do you think happened to the Tonatiuh star? Let me know your theories down in the comments. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the unknown. If you enjoy exploring the great mysteries of history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. Until then, keep looking up. Have you ever looked up at the sun and wondered about the power it holds? See it as a source of light, warmth, and life? But for the ancient Aztecs, the sky was a battleground. The sun was the ultimate prize in a war between the gods themselves. You might know the story of Huitzilopochtli, the fearsome Aztec god of war and the sun. He was born fully grown and armed, his first act a brutal slaughter of his own siblings. But what if I told you there's a darker, more hidden story behind this myth? A story not just of a family squabble, but a cosmic war for control of the heavens. A conflict that pitted son against mother and threatened to plunge the world into eternal darkness. This is the story of the War of the Sun Gods. Our story begins with Coatlicue, the great Earth Mother, the serpent-skirted goddess from whom all life springs. But one day a ball of feathers fell from the sky, and touching it, she became pregnant. This divine pregnancy enraged her other children. The moon goddess, Coatlicue, and the 400 stars, the Sensenhutsnahua. They saw this unborn child as a threat, a stain on their mother's honor, and they vowed to destroy her. As they stormed the mountain where she lived, a voice boomed from within her womb. "Do not be afraid, mother. I know what I must do." And in that moment of terror and violence, Huitzilopochtli was born. Not as a helpless infant, but as a fully armed warrior, wielding the Xochitl, the serpent of fire. His first breath was a war cry. He immediately dismembered his sister, the moon, and chased his star brothers across the sky, scattering them into the void. This is the famous myth, Huitzilopochtli. The sun rises each day and vanquishes the darkness, his siblings, the moon and stars. But what if this wasn't just a daily cycle? What if this birth was a violent coup, a hostile takeover of the heavens? You see, some interpretations suggest that before Huitzilopochtli, the divine order was different. His mother Coatlicue, as the Earth's deity, represented a more ancient foundational power. The war against his siblings wasn't just self-defense. It was a grab for power. Huitzilopochtli wasn't just claiming his place, it was seizing the throne of the sun itself, a throne that perhaps was never meant for him. The light he commanded was not just for life-giving warmth. It was a weapon of immense destruction, a power that could burn the world to ash. He established a new order, one based not on creation and harmony, but on war and conquest. The sun was no longer just a nurturing star. It became a symbol of his absolute dominion. He became the patron god of the mighty Aztec Empire, demanding tribute and sacrifice to fuel his daily battle against darkness. This new age cast a shadow over the world. The Earth Mother, Coatlicue, was sidelined, her authority usurped by her own son. The balance of the cosmos was broken. Creation was now secondary to destruction. But do you think a force as primal as the Earth itself would simply accept defeat? Whispers in the myth suggest Coatlicue story isn't over. That the Earth Mother, whose power runs deeper than any sun god's fire, is just waiting. They say her rage still trembles through the earth, and that one day she might rise to reclaim what was hers. What happens when the foundation of the world decides it's had enough? The sun itself could fall from the sky. So, the question remains. Was Huitzilopochtli a divine protector, saving humanity each day? Or was he a usurper? A cosmic tyrant, whose reign began with bloodshed and forever altered the balance of the universe. The War of the Sun Gods may have ended in the myths, but the ideological battle between creation and destruction, mother and son, earth and sky, continues to echo through time. What do you think? It truly rules the sun. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into the dark heart of mythology, have you ever wondered what happens when the very gods meant to protect the world turn against its foundation? Imagine a world vibrant and alive, its heart beating in rhythm with the prayers of its people. Picture that same world, shattered and silent, its temples crumbling into dust. This is the story of the fall of Coatlicue, the great Aztec Earth Mother, and it's a tale not of a cosmic accident, but of a chilling betrayal. Coatlicue wasn't just a goddess of fertility. She was the earth itself, eternal, spinning cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. She gave life to the very soil, and in return, her people offered their most sacred gift, their blood. But even a being of such immense power has limits. Coatlicue knew the earth was fragile, its delicate balance teetering on a knife's edge. and she knew who was pushing it closer to the brink. Her own divine children, their insatiable hunger for power growing with each passing day. Her son Huitzilopochtli, the god of war, was the embodiment of this hunger. When he seized the sun, he didn't just claim the heavens, he conquered the earth. War and domination followed in his wake. Coatlicue could only watch in helpless silence as the world she nurtured turned on her, poisoned by the god's ambition. She felt the ground weaken beneath her feet, the sacred balance she had so carefully maintained, slipping through her fingers, torn apart by her own family. The other gods, they didn't see a mother. They saw a threat. They feared her ancient power, her deep knowledge, and the profound sway she held over life and death. They whispered in the heavens, their words dripping with fear, not reverence. They cast her aside, branding her a relic of a forgotten time. Her fall wasn't a swift, clean break. It was a slow, agonizing descent into obscurity. Her people forgot her, turning instead to the gods who promised them power and glory. The Earth Mother, once the heart of their world, became a mere whisper on the wind. But this was not her end. It was a transformation. As her power waned, a darkness began to seep into the world. The gods, lost in their greed, had destabilized the very forces of nature. The sun, the earth, the stars, all fell out of sync. The world itself seemed to mourn its lost mother. The soil grew barren, the rain ceased, and the rivers ran dry. The fall of Coatlicue was a loss for everyone. Even in her exile, her essence remains. You can feel it in the cracks of the earth, in the scent of ancient blood carried on the wind. It's said that if you listen closely to the world's murmurs, you can still hear her voice. It doesn't speak of anger, but of a deep longing to restore the balance, to reclaim what was stolen. Perhaps one day, the earth will call for her again. Perhaps it will be Coatlicue, not the warrior gods, who returns to heal the world, because the earth never truly forgets its mother. The gods, in their arrogance, will one day learn that you cannot simply cast aside the source of all life. Coatlicue's fall was not her defeat. It was the beginning of her true story. Her return won't be one of violence, but of reclamation. The earth, in all its dark primal beauty, will rise again. And when it does, the gods will tremble, for they will finally understand they underestimated the one force that can never truly be defeated. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the heart of mythology. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you do and miss our next dive into the forgotten tales of our world. See you next time. Have you ever stood in the ruins of an ancient temple and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the wind? In the heart of the Aztec world, amidst crumbling walls and faded murals, lies a secret few dare to speak of: the forgotten prophecies of Coatlicue, the Earth Mother. These weren't gentle whispers of fortune. These were dark, ominous predictions of the Earth's collapse, the sun's final descent, and a darkness that would swallow the world whole. You've heard the old tales, right? The ones that say the Earth is alive, that it watches and remembers. But what if it also knows what's coming? This ancient knowledge, a divine secret, was once entrusted to the high priests of Coatlicue's temples, but the secrets became too dangerous to keep. The prophecies were hidden, erased from records, and left to rot in forgotten tombs. But whispers remain. It's whispers that these weren't just predictions, but warnings. Warnings to anyone who dared to disturb the delicate balance between the earth and the heavens. Coatlicue's power, a force of both creation and destruction, was tied to the earth's cycles. When it is the prophecies foretold, those cycles would one day be broken. The sun, moon, and stars would fall from their paths, and the earth itself would tremble. On that day, the earth would reclaim what was taken, and the gods themselves would be no more. The people, lost in their daily rituals and offerings, never truly understood the scope of these prophecies. They spoke of an age when the sun wouldn't rise, when seasons would cease, and the very soil would turn against them. Even the great gods Huitzilopochtli Quetzalcoatl would be powerless. Because Coatlicue, the Earth Mother, wasn't just a goddess of life. She was the harbinger of death. destined to bring about the end when the time was right. As the priests delved deeper into the sacred texts, they saw the signs. They realized the earth was dying, its steady pulse weakening. In desperation, they performed rituals on an unimaginable scale, offering sacrifices to appease the earth and restore its balance. But it was too late. The prophecies were clear. The earth's fate was sealed. The gods had failed, and in their failure, they had sealed their own demise. The priests, once the most powerful figures in the empire, began to fear the very goddess they served. They had become consumed by the earth's dark knowledge, and some say that in the final days they turned to forbidden rituals, calling upon ancient forces of the underworld to try and alter reality itself. But the last of these rites, performed deep within a hidden temple, summoned something far darker than they ever intended. The earth, once a source of life, became a realm of madness and decay. These prophecies were never meant to be spoken aloud, were sealed in whispers and secret words. Yet as the Aztec Empire crumbled, the prophecies scattered to the winds. But what if they were never truly forgotten? What if the earth still remembers? The prophecies of Coatlicue are not just warnings. They are a promise. A promise that the earth will one day reclaim its power, that the gods who turned against it will be cast down, and that balance will be restored. So as you listen to the whisper of the wind, they say the serpent holds power and ancient force, so deeply entwined with the earth that it could shape the destinies of gods and mortals. For the Aztecs, the serpent was a sacred symbol of creation and destruction, life and death, central to the worship of the earth goddess, Coatlicue. But what was once revered as divine wisdom would, over time, become a harbinger of a creeping, insidious curse. The serpent, it turned out, demanded a price it cost no one understood until it was far too late. In many ways, the serpent was Coatlicue's gift to the world, slithered through the underworld, its coils wrapping around the roots of mountains and the very bones of the earth. It was seen as the keeper of hidden knowledge, the bearer of creation's ancient secrets. The Aztecs believed this creature could grant them access to the divine if only they could unlock its mysteries. But the serpent was a being of duality, both sacred and dangerous, wise and corrupting. Its curse wasn't a sudden strike. It took root slowly, quietly in the hearts of those who dared to seek its deeper truths. The high priests of Coatlicue's temple, those who spent their lives studying the serpent's nature, were the first to fall. As they delved into forbidden knowledge hidden within its scales, they unknowingly invited the curse into their hearts. It began with soft, insistent whispers in their minds, whispers of power, of eternal life, of controlling the very forces of nature. But soon, those whispers turned to madness. A word spoken at the wrong time, a fleeting, nonsensical thought. Before long, the priests couldn't distinguish reality from delusion. The serpent had woven itself into their consciousness, twisting their perceptions until the line between the divine and insanity completely blurred. Their sacred rituals became frantic and erratic. In their desperation, they offered more and more blood, not just to honor Coatlicue, but to feed the serpent's growing curse. This wasn't just a loss of mind, it was a transformation of the soul. Those touched by the serpent's power became something else not quite human, it's not quite divine, but walking shadows of their former selves. Their eyes grew dull, their words hollow, yet they carried the earth's most terrifying secrets. The serpent had claimed them, and now they were its agents, bound to a force they could never control. The curse didn't stop with the priests. It spread like a creeping fog. Anyone who walked too close to the ancient temples, anyone who sought the serpent's wisdom, found themselves drawn into its web. The very earth seemed to pulse with its power, tightening its coils around the souls of all who walked upon it. The once vibrant Aztec people lost their purpose. The sun grew cold and distant, casting long, hollow shadows over a restless land. In the final days of Coatlicue's worship, the curse reached its peak. The mighty empire began to crumble from within, its people falling into madness, their hearts consumed by the very force they had once revered. The temples fell to ruin, and a symbol of divine knowledge became a mark of death. But even as the civilization vanished, the serpent remained. Its power lingered, hidden beneath the earth, waiting. It is said that even now, the serpent waits, coiled in darkness, ready to strike again. The curse, once unleashed, could not be undone. Some still seek its wisdom, believing the knowledge it holds is worth any price. They search for the ancient temples, unaware of the true cost. The serpent doesn't offer power freely, demands a price paid not in blood, but in the soul itself. And so, the curse endures a chilling reminder that the Earth's deepest powers are not to be trifled with. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into myth and mystery. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the shadows of history. We'll see you in the next one. In the deepest, quietest hours of the night, when even the wind holds its breath, a story echoes from the ancient temples of Coatlicue. It's not a tale of glory, but one of betrayal. It's the story of the priests who once guarded the Earth Mother's secrets, who walked in her shadow and guided their people. But their devotion twisted into a lust for power. And in forsaking their goddess, they unleashed a darkness they could never hope to control. These high priests were once revered, their wisdom a beacon for those seeking to understand the mysteries of life and death. The people looked to them for protection, for a connection to the divine. But somewhere along that sacred path, they began to stray. They no longer sought knowledge, they craved power. And as we know, power is a dangerous thing to covet. The first signs were subtle, slight change in a ritual, a dark flicker in their eyes. The simple offerings they once made were no longer enough. They began demanding more, not to honor the Earth Mother, but to serve something else, something older, darker, and far more dangerous. It was whispered that during their most sacred ceremonies, they spoke in ancient tongues, words that should have remained unspoken, calling upon forces that were sealed deep within the earth. In their arrogance, they believed they could bend the universe to their will. They were wrong. The forces they awakened could not be contained. As their rituals grew more twisted and frantic, the people whispered that the priests had fallen under a new, terrible influence. The Earth Mother, once their protector, was now just a shadow, eclipsed by the hunger of those who had once served her. What the priests failed to understand was that the power they sought to control, was the power of the earth itself. Coatlicue true nature wasn't just creation, it was also destruction. And when they turned against her, they began to unravel the very fabric of existence. The world itself began to tremble with anger. The betrayal reached its peak during a final desperate ritual. They meant to summon a force so ancient and terrifying that even the gods had sealed it away. Blinded by ambition, they believed they could control it, that they could become gods themselves. But the earth had its own plan. The ritual didn't open a gate to a hidden realm, tore a hole in the veil between worlds. The wild, untamed forces they invoked surged forth with a fury no one could contain. It is said the earth swallowed the priests whole, consumed by the very power they sought to command. Coatlicue's vengeance wasn't fire or sword. It was the earth reclaiming its own. The once mighty priests were reduced to nothing, their names erased, their temples buried. Their betrayal sealed their fate, their souls forever bound to the dark forces they had summoned. The temple of Coatlicue was left in ruins, and the curse they unleashed remained. The earth, scarred by their greed, would never be the same. Coatlicue, once the Earth Mother, became a force to be feared. Her wrath is not in the blazing sun or sacrificial blood, but in the silent tremors beneath your feet. in the whisper of the wind that speaks of a world still unraveling. The priests betrayed her, and they became a footnote in the great, dark story of the Earth's eternal, unforgiving power. Thank you for journeying with us into this dark tale. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories from the shadows of history. See you next time. In the ancient world where gods walked among mortals, a terrible curse was born. It wasn't forged in fire or sealed with blood, but whispered on the wind, a secret carried by the very soil itself. This was the curse of Coatlicue, the Earth Mother, and it was a curse of madness. Those who turned their backs on her, the priests who sought forbidden power from the dark forces beneath the world, were not merely struck down, they were marked. The curse seeped into their minds, a slow, creeping poison that unraveled their sanity. They called upon ancient rituals, not to honor the gods, but to summon the chthonic energies of the underworld. In doing so, they didn't just invite power, they invited madness into their hearts. It is said that those who participated in the final, blasphemous ritual began to hear voices. At first, they were faint whispers, coming from the cracks in the earth, from the silent, hollow spaces of their own minds. But soon, the whispers grew clearer, speaking of truths no mortal was ever meant to know. They told of the birth and death of worlds, of the fall of gods, and of a time when the earth itself would rise up and swallow everything. This forbidden knowledge was a poison. The priests, once paragons of wisdom, began to crumble. The power they craved had become the instrument of their ruin. The whispers grew into a deafening roar, and with them came visions, horrifying glimpses of the world unraveling, of the sun falling from a cracked sky. In their spiraling insanity, they turned on each other, but there were no answers, only more questions. They were trapped in a hell of their own making, consumed by the Earth Mother's ancient rage. As the priests descended into madness, so too did the world around them. The once sacred temples were abandoned, their walls scrawled with the unintelligible glyphs of shattered minds. The curse spread like a plague. Crops withered, rivers ran dry, and a perpetual twilight fell across the land. The earth itself seemed to mourn the betrayal, its sorrow and anger seeping into the very bedrock of civilization. The curse was not reserved for the priests alone. It touched everyone. People were tormented by nightmares, haunted by the same whispers from the deep. The entire civilization, once built in reverence to Coatlicue, began to collapse under the weight of her fury. Even the other gods retreated. Coatlicue, the mighty sun god, could no longer pierce the gloom. Coatlicue, the feathered serpent of wisdom, coiled into the shadows, abandoning the world of men. Left without guidance, the people were lost. What had they done to unleash such a reckoning? Coatlicoue's curse was not one of simple destruction. It was a curse of memory, a chilling reminder of the price of betrayal. It would be passed down through generations, an eternal echo in the cracks of the earth, a story whispered on the wind. The temples stood empty, the priests wandered as hollow shells, and the people were trapped in a cycle of chaos. The Earth Mother, the creator of all life, had become its unmaker, proving that when the earth is betrayed, it never, ever forgives. Thank you for journeying with me into this dark legend. If you enjoy exploring the forgotten corners of mythology, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories from the shadows of history. See you next time. The world has fallen into disarray. Strange, suffocating stillness hangs in the air. The gods who once walked among us have retreated, and the earth once teeming with life, it now lies scarred by the actions of those who sought to control its very essence. Yet even in this profound emptiness, the whispers of Coatlicue persist. They are soft but insistent, like a memory that refuses to be forgotten. Her influence may have faded from the eyes of the world, but the earth remembers, and it remembers her with a hunger that cannot be satiated. The final days of the Aztec Empire were not merely the collapse of a civilization. They were the first echoes of a much larger unraveling, one that began deep within the earth. In the very heart of the goddess who had once ruled over it, the priests, in their desperate attempts to control what they could not understand, had awakened something far darker than they had ever anticipated, a force that could not be put back to sleep. They believed they were calling upon the power of the earth to shape their future, but in truth, They had merely awakened its curse that would ensure their downfall. The last rituals performed were not those of devotion or reverence. They were desperate pleas, frantic attempts to stop the madness they had unleashed. But as the earth trembled beneath them, as the walls of their temples cracked and buckled, the priests began to realize the truth. They had lost control. The curse of Coatlicue was not a mere shadow. It was a living force, one that had seeped into the very soil and twisted it beyond recognition. In the final hours, as the sun began to set and the stars grew dim, they heard her voice not in their minds, but in the ground beneath their feet. The earth had begun to speak again, and this time, it was not a whisper of blessing, but a lamentation for all that had been lost. The Earth Mother, once a deity of creation, had become something else entirely, a force of reckoning, a reminder that the earth can never be fully controlled. Those who seek to dominate it will eventually become nothing more than dust beneath its weight. Her final whispers were not of vengeance or destruction, but of sorrow. She mourned not for herself, but for the world that had once been in balance, for the people who had honored her with their lives. She wept for the priests who had betrayed her in their hunger for power, and for the people who had abandoned their connection to the earth in favor of hollow rituals. But most of all, she wept for the land itself, which had been scarred beyond repair. As the final tears of the Earth Mother fell into the soil, they gave birth to something new. It was not a rebirth of life, but the beginning of something more ancient, something older than the gods. The earth, in its sorrow, began to reclaim what had been taken from it. The cycles of life and death, distorted by the priests, began to return to their natural flow. But this was not a return to peace. It was a return to a brutal, primal balance, one that required the earth to take back what had been stolen. In the days that followed, the world seemed too quiet. The sun, once burning so brightly, now hung low in the sky, its light dimmed by the weight of the earth's sorrow. The winds no longer sang with joy, but with a quiet, mournful refrain. The rivers, which had once flowed freely, now trickled with a reluctant pace. Yet, through it all, Coatlicue's whispers continued. They could be heard in the rustling of leaves, in the shifting of sands, in the trembling of mountains. The earth was not dead. It was waiting for those who still honored its ancient rhythms, for the time when balance could be restored. The whispers of Coatlicue are not calls to action, but warnings. Warnings of a world that has lost its way, and of a time when the earth will rise to reclaim its rightful place. And so, the world carries on, haunted by the echoes of the Earth Mother's final words. The world moves in cycles. We see it every day as the sun rises and sets, as the seasons shift, and as life is born from the dust it will one day return to. But beneath this steady, familiar rhythm, ancient forces lie dormant, waiting for the right moment to reawaken. They are the forgotten gods, the ones erased by history, but they have not vanished. They are still here, hiding in the cracks of the world, waiting for the day when they will return to claim what was once theirs. Though their names have been lost to time, their influence lingers. It's in the very earth we walk upon, in the shadows we fail to notice, in the whispers of the wind that stir when the night grows still. Coatlicue, the Aztec Earth Mother, is not alone in her exile. She is but one of many gods who were cast aside, forgotten by the very people who once worshipped them. The gods who ruled the heavens, the earth, the sun, and the moon, all of them have faded. Their temples crumbled into ruins, their rituals reduced to mere myths. But these gods, though erased from the pages of history, have not gone silent. Their power still pulses beneath the earth, still trembles in the air, and still courses through the veins of the world itself. One day, they will return. The question is not if, but when. Some believe their return is inevitable. They speak of signs, strange occurrences, shifts in the earth, moments of inexplicable darkness. The stars have begun to align in ways foretold long ago, as if the heavens themselves are preparing for this divine return. Others claim the earth itself is crying out, that the imbalance created by the gods' disappearance has reached a breaking point. The sun grows dimmer, the winds grow colder, and the soil feels heavy, as though it's holding its breath, waiting. In the quiet, forgotten corners of the world, there are those who still remember the old ways. They seek out hidden temples, ruins buried deep beneath the earth, hoping to find remnants of the ancient god's power. They search for forgotten texts, for scrolls that speak of lost rituals, for whispers of names erased from all but the most ancient of minds. They believe the gods are not truly gone, but merely sleeping, waiting for the right moment to rise again. They are right. But the return of the forgotten gods will not be a gentle one. These are not the merciful deities of later myths. They are the primordial forces of the world, the very essence of creation and destruction. The gods that once walked the earth were not just figures of worship. They were the raw powers that shaped the fabric of existence. Coatlicue, in her sorrow, is not merely a symbol of fertility. She is the embodiment of the earth's unforgiving cycles, of life born from death, of creation that requires destruction. Their return will be a reckoning, a reminder that the earth, in all its power, is not something to be controlled. Yet, there is hope. These exiled gods, though they bring chaos, also carry the potential for renewal. For every god of death, there is one of rebirth. For every deity that brings darkness, there is one that brings light. The earth longs for balance, and the gods, when they return, will bring that balance, though it may come at a terrible price. The ancient priests who once served them didn't understand this. They believed they could control the divine, bend the gods to their will, and make them tools for human ambition. But nature cannot be tamed. The priests' downfall was not their devotion, but their hubris. In trying to usurp the gods, they set in motion the very forces that would lead to their own destruction. Now the world waits. The earth, the heavens, and the stars all tremble in anticipation. Forgotten gods are stirring in their ancient slumber. The ruins of their temples, the forgotten rituals, and the lost symbols of their power are calling out to those willing to listen. The gods have not vanished. They are waiting for the right moment, for the right souls to answer their call. When they do, the world will change. The sun might burn brighter, or it might dim entirely. The earth will tremble with the power of creation and destruction. The earth never forgets, not truly. It remembers everything that has come before, every life that has passed through its soil, every drop of blood spilled upon its surface. And though time may erode the memories of gods and empires, the earth holds tight to its secrets. The gifts it once offered, the blessings it once shared, are now buried deep within its folds, waiting. Waiting for those who are worthy, waiting for those who will listen. Coatlicue, the great Earth Mother, was never a goddess of gentle gifts. Her blessings always came with a price, because the earth itself is not a soft, nurturing thing by nature. It is fierce, unyielding, and at times, cruel. Life springs forth from its dark womb, but death is never far behind, a constant shadow. And yet, there is one gift that Coatlicue left behind, one that remains hidden from almost everyone, a gift that even now pulses in the very heart of the planet, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered. It's said that Coatlicue's final gift was never meant for the gods, nor for the priests who worshipped her, nor even for the people. It was meant for the earth itself, and for the very few who might still hear its call. The earth's heartbeat, steady and eternal, carries with it the essence of life, and with it, the power to both create and destroy. This gift isn't gold or jewels, but something far more potent, the ability to restore balance, to heal the deep wounds that have been inflicted upon the earth. But this gift is not given lightly. The earth does not offer itself to the unworthy, to those who would seek to control it or try to bend its will to their own selfish desires. Coatlicue final gift is reserved for those who understand the true nature of the earth. Those who grasp that creation and destruction are not separate forces, but two sides of the same eternal coin. Life cannot exist without death, and death cannot exist without life. This is the secret Coatlicue left behind. The ancient priests, in their arrogance, never truly understood this. They believed they could control the earth, harness its power for their own ends. They sought to dominate, to bend the forces of creation and destruction to their will. But in doing so, they shattered the delicate balance that Coatlicue had worked so hard to maintain. The curse they unleashed wasn't the wrath of a forgotten goddess. It was the direct result of their own hubris, their failure to understand the fundamental nature of the world. And so, the gift was hidden from them, locked away in the deepest corners of the earth, waiting for someone who could hear the language of the land. Even now, as our world continues to spiral, there are those who still seek this gift. They journey through the ruins of ancient temples, through forests that have long forgotten the sound of human footsteps, and across deserts where the wind carries the echoes of long-lost prayers. These seekers aren't looking for power, glory, or riches. They seek only the truth, the understanding that the earth has always carried within it. They know that the balance between life and death must be restored, that the earth must be healed. But the earth doesn't give up its secrets easily. To receive Coatlicue's final gift, do you ever feel like the gods have vanished, that our world has been left behind, and the epic tales of deities like Coatlicue are just dusty old myths? You might think so, but the earth does not forget. It never does. Winds can howl, stars can fall from the sky, and entire civilizations can rise and then crumble to dust. But underneath it all, the ancient pulse of the earth continues, steady and unyielding. The gods may have withdrawn from our world, but they are not lost. They are simply waiting. Waiting for those who are ready to listen, to understand, and to help restore the balance that was shattered so long ago. The final lesson that Coatlicue, the Great Earth Mother, left for us isn't one of anger or revenge. It's a lesson of a quiet, inevitable reckoning. Think about it. Earth doesn't need to scream or rage to show its power. Its true strength lies in its patience, in the deep understanding that all things are born, live their lives, and return to the cycle. And Coatlicue is not absent from this cycle. She is the cycle. She is here, right now, in the soil beneath our feet, in the trees that stretch their branches towards the sky, in the very rhythm of life and death that shapes our world. Long as we walk upon this earth, we walk in the shadow of the gods, whether we choose to remember them or not. Sometimes you can almost feel it, can't you? The weight of history pressing down, the echoes of old gods and forgotten wisdom whispering to your soul. Those whispers are always there, if you just know how to listen. The very same forces that shaped the heavens and the earth, the forces that gave birth to the gods and then watched them fade, are still present. They linger in the quiet spaces between the stars. They ride on the winds that stir the dust. And they reveal themselves in the cracks that form beneath our feet when we least expect them. And though they may seem silent, they are not gone. They are waiting for you, for those who will listen. For those who can understand that the earth is so much more than just a rock we live on. It is a living, breathing being that has carried the immense weight of time and memory for eons. Perhaps one day, the gods will return. Perhaps a day will come when the sun burns a little brighter, or when the ground itself shakes with the power of forces that have been dormant for millennia. Maybe, when the balance is finally restored, the whispers of Coatlicue and the other forgotten gods will be heard again, not in the echoing halls of ancient temples, but in the hearts of those who truly understand the earth's timeless message. That message is that life and death are inseparable. Creation and destruction are just two sides of the same coin, and that we are all, every one of us, bound to this earth just as it is bound to us. For now, though, the earth waits in silence, and so do the gods.
Right.
But if you've ever felt that stirring beneath your feet, if you've ever heard the faintest whisper on the wind, then you already know the truth. The earth will never truly be silent. It will always remember. And one day, it will call out to those who are finally ready to listen. If your candle hasn't gone out, then you're probably ready for the next god. Thanks for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed this, please consider liking the video and subscribing for more explorations into the forgotten corners of our world. Stay curious. Do you feel that? It's a soft tremor beneath your feet, almost like the earth itself is breathing. A slow, deliberate rhythm of life and death. She's calling to you, not with words, but with a presence that vibrates through the soil, through the very air you breathe. This is the call of Coatlicue, the Earth Mother. A name forgotten by time, yet a presence that is always watching, always waiting. Her name might have been erased from the sacred texts, but you can feel her still a distant echo, a haunting murmur in the wind. They said she once ruled over the realms of both life and death, the great cycle that binds everything to the earth. You might think of her as a creator, but she was also the destroyer. It's a mother who gave life, but whose embrace was also a dark, consuming force. Back when the Aztecs honored their gods in ways we can barely imagine, Coatlicue was at the very center. She wasn't a goddess of gentle beauty or simple fertility. No, she was the Earth Mother in her rawest form, fierce, powerful, and eternal. Legends speak of her being pregnant with the stars, her body draped in writhing serpents and adorned with the symbols of the Earth, a goddess both divine and terrifying. Even the other gods were said to tremble before her, because Coatlicue's power was absolute. Her body was the earth, but her spirit was connected to the cosmos. She was the earth that could give, and the earth that could take away without a hint of mercy. But it wasn't just the Aztecs who worshipped her. The Olmecs, the Toltecs, and even civilizations before them whispered her name. They called on her to bring the harvests and the rains, to ensure the sacred cycles of life continued. But the earth is ancient, older than any of them, older than you or I, and in that forgotten time, she ruled over more than just the fertile soil. She held dominion over the realms beyond the places where the sun never shines, where the underworld brushes against the stars. Her name is written in stone, carved into the ancient pyramids that now lie in ruins, but most will never find her there. The murals have faded, the offerings are long gone. What was once a city teeming with life, with prayers rising like smoke to the heavens, is now just a silent ghost town. And you, like so many who came before, stand on the edge of discovering something long lost, something that was meant to stay forbidden. There is power in knowing her name, Coatlicue. Some say that if you whisper it correctly, the earth itself will listen. But that knowledge is gone. Her true name, spoken only in the deepest caves, in the most sacred halls of forgotten temples, was sealed away by those who feared her. They believed that the earth, once disturbed, might never return to its calm. But listen closely now. The call is faint, but it's there. The earth is restless. Coatlicue is stirring in her forgotten grave, and she isn't calling for your reverence. She's calling for your fear, because it wasn't love that bound her to this world, but something darker, something more ancient than any of the gods you know. As we descend deeper into the myth, into the story of Coatlicue, the Earth Mother, they feared we will uncover the truth that was hidden. Buried beneath centuries of conflict, beneath layers of sacred rites and erased histories. This isn't just the story of a goddess, it's the story of a force too powerful to be understood, too consuming to be worshipped, and far too terrifying to remain forgotten. As we begin this journey into the dark, forgotten past, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Picture yourself standing in the shadow of a crumbled Aztec temple. The grandeur is gone, but if you listen closely, you can almost hear the stones whisper. They carry the echoes of ancient rituals, of a time when this land thrummed with the pulse of an empire. And here you can feel the weight of something unspeakable, something written in blood. Now, these temples weren't just stone and mortar. They were conduits to the gods, built to appease their cosmic thirst. And for one goddess in particular, the Earth Mother Coatlicue, a simple offering would never suffice. Her connection to the earth was so profound, she demanded a payment that would bind her followers to her in a dark, unholy covenant. She required the blood of the living, but these were not just any sacrifices. Victims, often warriors or those marked by fate, were chosen for their potential to carry the earth's curse. Priests would draw ancient symbols upon their bodies, runes known only to those who dared commune with the deepest parts of the world. Then, the ritual would begin. Imagine the slow ascent up the Great Pyramid steps, each one heavy with impending doom. At the summit, under the watchful eyes of carved deities, the victim was laid upon a stone altar. The high priests would chant in a forgotten tongue, their words vibrating like the earth itself, stirring from a long slumber. A ceremonial blade, obsidian sharp, would be raised high. The blood that flowed was more than an act of violence. It was a sacred, deliberate release of life force. It was said to nourish the earth, yes, but it also carried the prayers of the people directly to the heart of Coatlicue. What the sacred texts never revealed was that this act was more than an offering. It was a binding, a pact. The soul of the sacrificed was claimed by the Earth Mother, and with it, the knowledge of the earth's true, terrifying power. But this knowledge was a double-edged sword, a path to madness. Coatlicue didn't just take life. She claimed souls, slowly eroding the sanity of those who sought her favor. The priests, her most devout followers, were unknowingly performing a ritual far darker than they could comprehend. The sacrificial blood wasn't just for sustenance. It was a key that unlocked a gateway between our world and something much older, much darker realm that even the gods themselves feared. This sacred ritual was a curse in disguise. While it seemed to maintain the cycles of nature, it also sowed seeds of corruption. The more blood that was spilled in her name, the more Coatlicue's unsettling influence seeped into the very soil. The earth grew restless, haunted by the memories of the dead it now held. The people, in turn, grew more desperate, their rituals becoming darker, their prayers more frantic. The line between life and death began to blur. Eventually, reverence turned to fear. What was once a sacred duty became a horrifying obligation. The priests, who had orchestrated these rituals for centuries, began to question everything. Had they been duped? Were they merely pawns in a cosmic game, played by a goddess whose true nature was beyond mortal comprehension? Had their devotion only served to deepen the curse, binding them ever tighter to her malevolent will? The truth, like the blood spilled on those ancient altars, was lost to time, buried beneath layers of stone and forgotten history. The sacrifices are now just a whisper on the wind, a distant, chilling memory carried by the earth itself. But the call of Coatlicue remains, hidden beneath the weight of civilizations. Perhaps the earth remembers what humanity has forgotten. And if you listen closely in the silence of these ruins, you might just hear the echo of that first sacrifice. The murmur of blood calling to blood, a pact sealed in darkness, where the earth still trembles with the weight of its own terrible truth. Thank you for joining me on this. We all know the story of Huitzilopochtli, the mighty sun god of the Aztecs, a miraculous birth, mother in peril, and a son born fully armed to defend her honor. It's a tale of divine intervention, of good triumphing over evil. But what if I told you that's not the whole story? What if the popular myth is just a gleaming surface, hiding a far darker, more primal truth about the birth of this powerful deity? The story we're often told is simple. Coatlicue, the Earth Mother, is sweeping a temple when a ball of feathers falls from the sky. She tucks it into her waistband and miraculously becomes pregnant. Her other children, the stars and the moon, are outraged by this mysterious pregnancy and plot to kill her. But just as they attack, Huitzilopochtli springs from her womb, a fully grown warrior, armed with a fire serpent, and slaughters his treacherous siblings, saving his mother and establishing himself as the new sun. It's a clean, heroic narrative. But the ancient world was rarely so neat. Let's journey into the shadows of this myth, to a version that speaks not of divine blessings, but of cosmic terror. In this telling, Coatlicue, whose name means serpent skirt, is not just a passive mother. She is the earth ancient, chaotic, and unimaginably powerful. Her conception isn't a gentle miracle, it's a violent collision. Imagine the raw, untamed energy that sleeps at the planet's core, a force older than the gods themselves. This is what impregnates her, not a gift from the heavens, but a tremor from the depths, an eruption of the Earth's own chaotic soul. This child, stirring in her womb, wasn't a blessing. It was a premonition. Coatlicue knew this wasn't the birth of another celestial god of light. This was something else entirely, something wild, uncontrollable, and dangerous. Huitzilopochtli's birth wasn't a moment of salvation. It was a rupture in the fabric of reality. He didn't just emerge. He exploded into existence, a living embodiment of the Earth's primal rage. In his first act, the slaughter of his siblings. In the popular myth, this is justice. But in this darker version, it's a terrifying declaration of power. He wasn't just protecting his mother. He was announcing the arrival of a new, chaotic order. He was a force of nature that the other gods, born of light and grace, couldn't comprehend and desperately feared. His birth wasn't a victory for the divine. It was the moment the divine was shattered. So, who was Huitzilopochtli really? Not just a sun god, not just a warrior. He was the child of the Earth's restless hunger, a walking paradox of creation and destruction. His power didn't come from a heavenly blessing, but from the planet's chaotic, volcanic heart. He is a stark reminder that even the brightest sun casts a shadow, that the gods themselves are forged in the same cosmic fires that shape our world fires, that can create and annihilate in the very same breath. This hidden story reveals a profound and unsettling truth about the Aztec worldview. It shows that their gods weren't separate from the natural world, but were born from its most violent and unpredictable forces. Huitzilopochtli, the celebrated hero, is also a symbol of this fundamental chaos. He teaches us that creation is never peaceful. It is born from turmoil, and no power, not even the divine, can ever truly escape the ancient, eternal, and often terrifying power of the earth itself. Thanks for joining me on this dive into the shadows of myth. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories that challenge what you think you know. See you next time.